Welcome to another episode of the Benmore Brief Podcast. Today I have Jason Ford, Senior Mortgage Banker at Bell Bank. Bell Bank's a nationwide bank, right?
Yeah. So it's a privately held bank, and then the original headquarters were North Dakota, Minnesota.
Got you.
So Midwest.
Got you. But you service nationwide. Your financial instruments are pretty much nationwide, right?
Correct. Pretty much. There's some states where it's a little bit hard, like on regulations wise, but yes, a majority of the United States.
Cool. And then so Jason and I met, 6 or 7 months ago, right?
That sounds, yeah.
Yeah, 6 or 7 months ago. And mainly just servicing some of my banking needs. But what was most interesting about Jason's completely remote and is really adoptive of our modern tech tools, remote work. I know you're talking about some of the lead gen stuff that you use, some of the tech tools that you use on the lead gen side. And Jason also had a career as a hockey player right by me here in Madison at University of Wisconsin. So yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about the tech tools, the remote work in the mortgage game, and just kind of go from there. So pleasure to have you on, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. So just to start off, I know we were just talking about this, but I played sports in college. My co-founder played basketball at BU as well. So we're big on the college sports stuff. Walk me through just your college, hockey career, and I know it runs in the family, and kind of the story surrounding that.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into it young. So my dad played at Wisconsin, and then he actually happened to coach there as well for a good amount of time. So that's kind of how I got started in all that. My mom went to UW as well. She didn't play any sports. She did well in school, so she's good on that side. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got into hockey. And then growing up, obviously lived in Madison most of my life, and then played junior hockey. Hockey's a little bit different, right? There's not as many 18-year-old freshmen. There's a lot of 19, 20, 21-year-old freshmen in hockey. So I played a couple years at juniors, and then I had the opportunity. Wisconsin was one of the schools I had the opportunity to get a scholarship for. And obviously being a hometown kid. And then my brother, who was younger, had a scholarship to play at UW. So it was kind of like a dream come true on that side, and got the opportunity to go play at UW, and it was a blast, that's for sure.
Got you. And then so with hockey, I always found this fascinating because I grew up with a couple of my buddies. They ended up playing for AAA. The recruiting's different. You start getting recruited at 12, 13, 14, right? For some of these D1 programs. Is that correct?
Yeah. And and I think this is across all sports too. It's just getting earlier. Mm-hmm. Right? Like my brother had a Division I commitment. He had to be like 15 years old at that point. And was already kind of set up on that. Yeah. So it gets started really early. And then obviously the cool thing that like I brought up that I liked, being a little bit of a later bloomer, is just having those extra years. And it would be like JUCO and football, right? That would be kind of the similar thing. You just get a little bit more time to develop, and then come to school a little bit older and more mature.
Yeah. And so those are 2 years. It's up to 2-3 years, and it's in the juniors. And that's I remember that those leagues alone are very, very, very competitive. And if you go and play hockey at the Division I, any level at hockey, Division I, Division II, Division III, it's extremely competitive because there's only 60 Division I teams and only a couple more D3 teams. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and they've expanded a little bit on the D1 side, but yes, it's very limited on how many teams there actually are when you go to school. So very competitive on that side of things. And then two, hockey's just growing nationally. So there's a lot more overseas influence, a lot of European players and stuff that are starting to do the college route. And then it's going to be very interesting. The NCAA for hockey specifically is now allowing major junior Canadian players to play college. And once you took money and you played major junior in Canada, you had no eligibility. They reversed that ruling. So now you're going to see probably, I would assume, an influx of more Canadian players coming to college hockey as well.
So you can go to the Canadian junior leagues and then still be eligible for the NCAA.
Correct. And that used to be, no, you weren't. Once you played one game there, you're done.
Got you. That's very interesting. Okay, so you go through college. You said you double majored, right? What was it again?
Yeah, so I did finance and real estate from the business school at UW, and I lucked out because they changed that now. You have to be a direct admit. to the business school there. So I was lucky on that side. I'm sure sports helps a little bit. It gives you a little bit of an ed on that side. But yeah, I did finance and real estate from UW Business School.
Got you. And so this is something that I encountered with my buddy in college. Doing sports and school at the same time, it's extremely tough. You got to be on the road, then you got to be trying to, get your classwork done. How is it managing those two, especially being a double major as well in college?
Yeah, it's tough. Biggest lesson you learn, and this will kind of go to the discussion today. It's the same thing tech kind of does. You get really efficient. You cut out a lot of waste. You know what I mean? You figure out how to just do things with less time. So that's kind of the biggest thing, was just learning how to be super resourceful. And then anytime I did spend on school, it had to be super efficient just to get all those things in with practice and lifting and meetings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the sports, and I can imagine, given just how prominent hockey is as well. And maybe this is just coming from being at BU, the hockey team, we put in 20-hour weeks, but the hockey team put in, I swear, 50-hour weeks. Just, they lived in the weight room or on the ice and stuff like that. So I always thought, how the hell do these guys even get close to getting it done? So, but yeah, talking about the efficiency, right? So, get through college. How'd you get started at Bell Bank? Was that right out of college for you, or what?
Yeah, so I'll kind of give you the backstory. Like, obviously, I wasn't coming out of school to be like, yeah, let me be a mortgage banker. That wasn't really what I was thinking. I was looking more like corporate routes, more like a typical analyst role in a bigger city. On that kind of side of things, and then just kind of went through the interview process, and I knew how to do those things, but I just missed the kind of doing things on your own and kind of figuring things out, run it your way, trial and error. Some of the people skills stuff just doesn't matter there, and if you have that, it's kind of like, I feel like you're kind of wasting maybe some of the abilities. So I had done those, and then I happened to just get connected with someone at another mortgage company. So I was there for 2 years. They're a phenomenal mentor. Kind of got into it, and I was like, hey, I think I can, do really well at this. And then I ended up getting, I guess you could say, recruited to Bell Bank at that point, and I've been there a couple of years now.
Got you. And so, the most interesting thing that I found when I was talking to you is one, we were talking a lot about the, the regulations surrounding the mortgages, which is very interesting. But the biggest thing is you're 110% remote, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we do have an office space, and there is some rules on that where you have to have physical locations depending on the entity, whatever. So I will pop into the office, but I am pretty much, outside of a few days a year, completely remote.
Yeah. And it's incredible. If you ever work with Jason, I've just never met someone who responds, frankly, so quickly on text. I swear, you're 24/7. And yeah, we never met in person yet. We engaged, and I think we have like 250 5-star reviews on Google or something like that.
We're getting up there. Yeah, we're trying.
It's ridiculous. Like, I've just never seen such a highly rated banker with 255. Imagine you, those are the people who've left reviews, right? So it's just crazy to me to think that in a game like, financial services like mortgages, you can be operating completely remote and operating so effectively. So can you just walk us through your day, like on a day-by-day basis, where you just wake up, get to the computer and start working, or how does that look like?
Yeah, and that kind of goes to the remote part. So and especially when you get good at like what you do and you're very confident in it, like obviously getting up, having to drive to work, do all those things, that wastes time. Right. So I can get up, I get right to the computer, and then it's basically starting to crank out work. A lot of the times it's going to be a lot of email responses early in the morning, just cleaning some things up. And usually that's from some of my assistants that are doing some things on the back end, getting some things ready in the morning. So just kind of giving them clarity about what we need to do and like getting all those things set up. But a majority of the job is a lot of communication with people, whether that's phone calls. Video technology has become a big one now. So even doing some type of presentation with a recorded video of me like walking through options and explaining different things, that's become a big time saver as well, going through that. But it is going to be a lot of, I would say, the way I do it, which is different than most people in my role who would trend older. You're going to see most of the people are 40s, 50s, 60s. In this is I will skew a little bit more operations than they will. I I know how to do everything on the back end with all the software and setting things up and doing that. So I'll do some of that, but a lot of it is just communication with people that are, just starting the process, people that are looking at homes, people that are under contract, all that kind of stuff, and just making sure that we move through the process super, super smooth and efficient. And in any customer service role or any service role in general, right? It's basically, how do I make the process super easy for the person that is using the service, right? Like, how do I remove friction? And maybe that's like a buzzword, but that's like my favorite thing. Like, that's what I really do, is try and remove the friction from the process so that it's super easy for people to use the service and they have a great experience.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something big for us as well. Our company's completely remote as well. It's just interesting, the office, stuff. I get that there's a place for that. Definitely some specific roles is important to be in person. But a lot of our service work nowadays, especially with, our generation, younger crowd, I sometimes feel like, we'd be way more inclined to hop on a Google Meets meeting or a phone call rather than meeting somewhere at some office and getting out, frankly, getting out of our house or apartment and driving in. Have you seen that I guess I have two questions here. Do you typically service a younger demographic, and have you seen like less friction with rather than having to like meet up in person or something like that?
Yeah, I would say I tend to skew a little bit younger. And that's easier. And I think COVID changed a lot of the game here, where people got comfortable with that and acclimated in a way where it wasn't as, for lack of a better word, sketchy. Whereas before, maybe there's some trust things you have to get over. But yeah, like, and what happens too is I feel like people, and this is a big thing nowadays, people are really busy. People are on their phones. People got things going on. Things just move a lot faster. When things happen. So I kind of have to meet them on their terms, right? And the way to meet them on their terms is I have to utilize tech, right? Because all of a sudden, if I say, hey, if you're comfortable meeting remote, or you're comfortable with the explanation, I put up the video and whatever, you can watch the video 15 times if you want to. You can watch the video at 10 p.m. when you and your wife are both home and it's comfortable and you're sat down and you have time to digest the info. So part of it too is just meeting people where they're at. And I tell people the way I can respond super quickly and the way I can provide the best service is doing it remote, because now I'm not forced to go to a meeting in person, which I'm happy to do, by the way, sometimes. I'm not wasting time where I'm like driving and then I can't answer my phone, and I'm not on the computer where I can fix things quickly or answer a question quickly. So it really does come down to like meeting those people where they're at. And that's it's just slowly changing. And I think for our age, it's just more obvious to us, right? It's just like, this is kind of how it happens nowadays.
Yeah, it's definitely more intuitive. I want to talk a little bit about tech. In the last, year, 2 years, there's been a huge AI boom. Have you been utilizing any of those tools, ChatGPT, Gemini or whatnot, to do your work?
Yeah, so we do. And we have to be careful because of how the regulatory environment is for mortgage. So like none of the confidential information can be pumped into like any offsite, like AI platform
third-party company or something like that.
So more of it is, I do it for a lot of data analytics. So we mentioned like the lead portion, and that's still not a massive part of my business, but it's something that it helps me scale a little bit more efficiently, and I'm working through it. So I use a lot of the AI models for dumping data and then having a conversation with it. Like, hey, what metrics matter? How do we optimize this? Like, where should we be putting money? What type of loan type do we see like a better reaction from our consumers from? All those kind of things. So I usually use it for that. But I will tell you, I even know some mortgage companies are doing this. There's a lot of work that, like, for example, when a contract comes in, those are very readable fields. It's a standard contract. There's going to be a point where that's going to be uploaded to probably something that we have, and then it automatically connects to like our operating system and puts in all the details of the contract. It sets everything up correctly. And let's say I teach it like, hey, here's my process. It automatically does some things like order an appraisal or order title or do some of those things. So I'm sure that is coming. It's just the mortgage industry is super regulated and it's slow. Because you're dealing with government organizations, so it takes time to get all this stuff in play.
Yeah, that's been a common trend. It's what you were just describing has been commonly referred to as like the agentization of certain whatever processes in a business, just being able to like upload whatever, some sort of, I don't even know the terminology, but something in your industry, and then having some sort of agent be able to basically delegate, upload, what you need to here and here and here and here. But we've talked about this privately, but yeah, the mortgage industry is extremely regulated. And so it's tough to move fast, because, we get the benefit of the doubt in the tech. We can move fast and break things and not have, a lawsuit at our footstep.
For sure.
Well, in your case, and, there's a history surrounding it, from what I understand, going back to like the 2008 crisis. Like, you can't really break things and move as fast as maybe you would want to, because, well, then there's, big legal problems and stuff like that. But that's interesting. You still are you still do think that it's coming, maybe slower than other industries, but you can see it coming.
Yeah, and you can see it coming on that side of, and I'm not even like great with the terminology. I just know how to use some of the stuff, but like having like an AI agent, right? That's doing some of the work that, and maybe it's not even replacing a person. Maybe it just, instead of doing X amount of loans a year, I can do 5X the amount of loans. And then it's going to compress like the margins in the business, and you're going to make up for it in scale. So it's going to come on that side. And then two, I don't know how they're going to do this, but with some underwriting things, especially some more straightforward files, you're going to see some more stuff like that. And you already see it in terms of like people can connect their bank accounts, right? You can auto connect your bank accounts. I can refresh it. Once you connect it, I do the rest. Same with your income. If your employer uses an ADP or something, your income's connected. If you choose to put the info in, we auto get a pull that. So there's cases where that happens, where people connect assets and income directly, and it just makes things super, super quick because all the data's there. And then I'm not relying on, some people take screenshots of bank statements. That's not going to work, right? It's got to be an official thing. So you already see some of that coming. Part of the trick too, and you may even deal with this sometimes, is the adoption. So like this is very a direct to consumer thing. So part of it is reliant on the consumer, one, knowing how to work the stuff, and two, wanting to even put their info in, which is a bigger hurdle than you would think. People are like, nope, don't want to connect that. Nope, don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too, is getting consumers to adopt the new tech.
Yeah, no, that's been a huge thing, just in our processes when we deal with basically our lead inflow. Right. We spend money for mainly Instagram ads, and last year I think we had 2 million impressions, but we lead people into a lead form, and in the lead form, it asks them to explain what their idea is. And it got to a point where so many people were hesitant, like their application or software development idea. And especially with the larger clients, we do get some larger companies that come through the lead form. They can't, explain their idea without us having an agreement in place. So we've explicitly stated on the form, if you don't want to, say your idea, this field is optional and stuff like that. But I can imagine we're just doing an idea. There's no social security, your bank statements. There's none of that stuff. Have you dealt with any hesitancy with that sort of, because I know you guys have your app and you are completely remote. Have you dealt with any problems like that?
Yeah, and you do. And we just solve them. We say no problem. We can do manual stuff, not an issue. So And I usually can have a feel on that just based on usually having a conversation. And that's the one part, is like, I do need to get on the phone because all the tech stuff doesn't grab the nuance yet. Like in our particular thing, I need to hear some of the nuance of their scenario. So we're always doing a phone call, so I have an idea. And then from there, I can kind of read whether or not that's going to be a route. The place you really do see it is what you're saying on the lead forms is... And this is just an interesting observation, is people fill out stuff. They get a text to their phone of a code. They have to put the code in. They have to agree to get contacted. You contact them and they said, how did you get my info?
Yeah.
So overcoming some of that is definitely like a hurdle. And I have to really work on like how I'm communicating to those people to be like I'm an actual person. Like, we didn't steal your info. This is how we got your info. Like, how can we help you out? So it's funny you say that, because I see a lot of the same hurdles on that end, is like making people comfortable because they don't know you, and finding a way to kind of marry the tech and the efficiency with like, there's still a personal touch here. Like, You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think phone calls are a great way to do that. Google Meets is a great way to do that. I don't know if you've looked into this piece of software, Loom. Have you heard of Loom?
Yes. And I have used that. And there's actually some mortgage specific ones where I can break down scenarios and it has like a video audio integration. So I do use that a lot. So I can explain to their specific scenario. So I can say their name and I can say, hey, based on what we talked about, all those different things of like, this isn't me just putting a copy paste script out here. This is me actually looking at your scenario based on what we talked about, what your goals are, and breaking it down. I think Loom is a tremendous asset in the way of communication. The way I even thought about that stuff is like, just look at the presence of, I don't use this stuff that much, but like TikTok or Reels, or people really want to consume information through video, like seeing people in audio. It's just, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just a trend that's happening, and people want it concise. People want to be able to watch it on their own time. People want to know you're real.
The 2x speed as well is huge.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one thing I want to ask, you mentioned you have a team, right? You have assistants. Are those assistants, or is it all virtual as well? Your assistants?
So they are employees, and yes, I meet them every once in a while, but it's mainly remote conversations with them, coordinating all the stuff that needs to get done behind the scenes.
Got you. And so Bell Bank as well, when I was a customer of yours, you guys have the app. You guys seem to be, as a whole, adopting these technologies pretty efficiently. Is this something that other banks are trending towards doing, or is this Bell Bank specific?
Yeah, so you're going to see this with a lot of probably the bigger players in the space that are committed to doing like mortgages. Some places you're just not going to see some like local banks or local credit. Like they're just not going to adopt this because it's not a big enough piece of their business to justify like the cost of implementing. But a lot of the big players, yes, you're going to see like a point of sale system, collecting the application, collecting the docs, doing all that kind of stuff. And then some type of loan operating system where we're actually putting the files in and closing it, and it matters for servicing on those things. But yeah, it's definitely coming. It's coming. And again, mortgage is a little tougher because, again, look at the average age of the home buyer in the United States and look at the average age of the person doing my job in the United States. It skews older. And the things they do really well that we can learn from is like a lot of relational stuff. They do that really well. Like that was a massive part of their business. The one part that's different is the adoption of like all these things that come very natural to us. So it takes a little bit of time to get people on board because they're like, well, I've done it this way for 20 years. And it's like, but let's show you a better way to do it, right? Like this helps you, it helps your customer, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And I keep on coming back to, the proof's in the pudding for you with, when I was shopping around, I talked to plenty of different brokers. You just responded the fastest, and the process was the most seamless. It was the fastest process, the most seamless, very intuitive to me. However, if I didn't grow up with technology, I could see maybe that wouldn't be as intuitive, but it's still hard to get around the fact that when I send a text, I get a text back within like 5-10 minutes.
For sure.
So yeah, I can see the proof being in the pudding from that respect. I want to talk a little bit about like lead inflow. Is it a volume? We've talked about this privately, but it seems to be a volume game, right? In the mortgage space. Is that right?
Yeah, it's massive volume. Conversion's not going to be there. Like you would say, probably for like normal e-commerce or stuff like that. It's just, you're fighting so many things. There's so many people touching the transaction too, where like you'll have a good relationship with the client, but the client's realtor knows someone and they've been doing it for 20 years and they really like you, but like you just can't overcome that hurdle with some people, which I completely so yeah, you're talking to a lot of people. You're not seeing a super high conversion rate on those. And the way I always look at it is being very confident in what we do, the process, like you talked about, and doing a phenomenal job where I'm not exactly looking to have ROAs that are through the roof of like, my return is massive from doing these. It's more like, let me get in touch with as many people as possible. Let's show them what we do. I'm confident they're going to have a great experience. If they have a great experience, then word of mouth becomes very powerful down the road with those.
Got you. And you head up your sort of marketing. Is that right? Like you're in control of your lead flows and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. So we do have we have to run it through marketing just for compliance purposes. So there's a heavy thing in that. It's not like I get to optimize probably as much as people would think, just because you have to stay compliant with what you're doing. But yes, I have complete control over the spend and some of those levers within the lead gen to kind of make it, again, just to optimize it at that point.
Got you. Yeah, that's very it's just interesting how independent sort of a role that you're in. I was talking to you, it's almost like you're running your own business in a sense. You're touching leads, follow-ups, and even fulfillment to an extent. I know you're not underwriting the loans, but you're still kind of processing that layer of communication between you and the client. Let's talk about communication. You're really good with it, super good. Do you have any tips or something that you've picked up, just keeping clients satisfied in this digital age and keeping like that, maybe speed of communication, the Loom stuff? I'd like to hear your thoughts on your communication.
For sure. For lack of a better phrase, speed kills. It's the universal language that all people respect, regardless of age, I've found. So you can never go wrong with that. And I think part of that is just, one, it's my personality. Whenever I buy a product or service, that's something I very much value. And I would say I skew that over price sometimes even. I really, really value that part of it. And as long as the price is reasonable, I feel like in the market, I will choose the person that's communicating better. So I think part of it is some customer service stuff really pains me. And so I feel the pain of that from a consumer side. And then it allows me to just be like, I can set up everything so that my consumers never have to feel how I felt dealing with someone in a service business. So I'm big on that. One thing I was never big on, but I had to shift a little bit on my mindset is how you follow up with people. And you have to figure out, maybe I don't represent all my consumers, right? Like they don't all think like me. So I have to put myself in their shoes and figure out like what matters to them. How can I make this service better for them? So a lot of the follow-up stuff and learning the cadence and how to reach out to people and like how to be helpful to people in a non-annoying way, that is a difficult task that I've had to learn a lot. Is like there's too much follow-up and then there's not enough follow-up. Too much follow-up, you're annoying, stop, get out of here. Not enough follow-up, which I used to be like, hey, if they really want to work with me and they like me, they'll come back. I don't have to follow up with someone. True in a sense, you should be prideful in what you do and confident in that, but people like to know that you care. And follow-up is another way to show people I'm thinking about you, I care about things, like what can I help with? How can I be helpful? So that's something where I've had to change my mindset of I'm not being annoying. How can I show these people, what do you need? What can I help with? This is what I'm good at. How can I do that? So that's been a big thing. And the leads have really helped with that because you talk to so many people. So you just get more data points, right? I just converse with more people. So those are kind of the biggest things, at least in my industry, which is a very direct to consumer type business a lot of the time. It's the speed and then it's following up correctly, which there's general guidelines of that, but it's a feel thing too. Right? It's marrying too much follow-up with not enough.
Got you. And so have you found then this is a trend that I'm seeing as well, especially with Loom and the AI tools as well. What used to be sort of like an automated, maybe general follow-up, you have the ability now to quickly record a Loom video or type in something quickly on AI, make it very, very personalized. Have you seen that as well in your space?
Yeah. And that's, and I'll say this caveat, part of business and all business that you learn too is it's just like sports. You play to your strengths.
Yeah.
What do you do well? What is your edge? How can you lean into what your edge is? I like to present. That fits my style. I'm a little bit more technical of a quote unquote, if you would say it is a sales role, but I like to sell technical things, right? I like to explain it. I want people to work with me because they think I'm good and I hope they like me, but I hope the first thing they say is this guy is competent.
Yeah.
That's the first reaction I want. And if you are a good presenter or you understand the technicalities of your business, those platforms are right now the best way or the best vector to communicate with your consumers. They can be concise, right? You can include as much detail as you want. You can include nuance. And just think of you recorded a 5-minute Loom video. How big of an email would I have to type
exactly.
to put all that info in? Yeah. And then people don't even hear the changes in my tone like how I'm saying things. So super, super powerful in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean that's very interesting. The Loom stuff, like I said, pretty much a game changer in my opinion. It's just funny you're saying all these things, and some of our clients and people that we work with, and just people who we're friends with, these are all like very almost I say like very like new age. Like I almost feel like I'm talking to like a guy who's trying to do drop shipping or e-commerce or something here. And it's the most interesting thing about it is like this is kind of sweeping in like with a lot of startups. This is the most common thing. If you want to close a deal now as a startup, right? The first thing that you do on the sales side is now people are doing personalized product pitches, personalized proofs of concept. And it's very interesting to see how this is one kind of working its way into, I mean, a very highly regulated industry, mortgages. But this sort of structure of marketing and dealing with services and clients in that sense is literally now putting people in homes. And I think it just speaks to kind of the wave of this new age of marketing. Have you met anyone else in the mortgage game that is adopting another broker, maybe that's also kind of, utilizing these, remote tactics, these digital tactics, frankly?
Yeah, and you see it more at scale, like maybe a little less personalized. The best company to think of is that everyone knows is Rocket Mortgage. They've been doing this for quite some time. That's why they are a massive publicly traded company. They're just early. They were early to this space. They perfected it. They're all lead driven. They're not really like referral based. Now they do have a high capture rate on some of their stuff, but that would be here's the big glaring example of a company that's really embraced that would be Rocket Mortgage. And then it's like any business. How do you compete against them? Okay, they've been doing this longer, whatever. The personalization, like you talked about.
Yeah.
That's we're faster, we're more nimble, we're smaller, we're quicker, right? Those kind of things are how you go after some of those big dogs in the industry that are doing things at scale extremely well. Like Rocket is a quote unquote call center.
Yeah,
they are doing this at massive scale.
Yeah. You fill out one of those forms, or Better Mortgage, I think, is another one as well. You fill out one of those forms and you'll just get a call from someone overseas, just like within 5 minutes, just like on your phone. And I can just, because you can hear the other people in the background. They're literally sitting in a call center, like
for sure.
Literally sitting in a call center. And it's like, okay, like I appreciate the speed here, but like, where's the personalization? And that was the difference with you. You get the same level of speed, but still the personalization, the looms, the stuff like that was very impactful. Okay, well, wrapping up here, last thing that I want to ask is kind of next 5 to 10 years, do you see any sort of trends, or what is your outlook like? Being a mortgage banker at Bell Bank, what are you excited about? What do you see kind of coming up in the short to medium term here?
Yeah, I just think tech's going to continue to, I don't want to steal like other people's terms, but it really is somewhat turning into a gig economy. Like even in the mortgage space, you mentioned Better Mortgage. Well, they pivoted to like commission only sales roles. They had salary people.
Really?
It doesn't work. Like the model just doesn't work. It works better to have the commission only people generating the leads. Like now you don't have these upfront costs, and then you're taking whatever the split is of people generating the business. But I just see smaller teams, see just way more efficiency. People are going to have to learn how to be like scale with the small teams way more than there is now. Mortgage is it's not a high margin business. And I think it just has to get more efficient, and it will continue as tech kind of gets into thing. And this is every single space, right? Like, we talked about this on the phone. You don't want to like scare people, but it kind of is adapt or die. And things are moving so fast. And I'm just proficient enough in the tech in this. I'm not like some genius tech person, but I can tell you the amount of scale you can achieve, efficiency, and still making the consumer happy with the implementation of this stuff. It's only leading towards one direction. And it's not slowing down. So getting on board with that stuff and learning it. And even like, you talked about what you guys are doing, kind of that entrepreneur, like you got to find a way to generate revenue yourself. It's just kind of the key. And it's because tech has basically made it a huge meritocracy, and it like talented people with tech, you don't want to compete against them. The scale at which they can touch people is crazy. So I think you're just going to see a continuation of that. Mortgage will probably lag a little bit with the compliance and stuff, but it's going to continue to happen. And hopefully for consumers, right? hopefully it just means lower costs in the end.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that we dial in here is with the increased usage of the personalization tools, more adaptability to remote tools. The AI stuff is really coming and emerging as being a helpful tool at this moment in time. I don't think it's replacing anyone. Maybe it will in a couple of years, or I mean, who even knows with the rapid pace here of development. But the remote stuff, you can work from anywhere, which means you can hire anyone from anywhere. That's the biggest thing as well, which means there's going to be more wealth basically spread across the world as well. Internet speed's only going to get better across the board. You know, in the past 5 years, Starlink came out. Now you can literally just have internet from anywhere without any cables. Pretty fast speed as well. I completely agree with you. We've talked about this privately as well. It's definitely prevalent in every industry. Technical services is no different. Some of the big players have adapted. The largest technical services players, Accenture, Cognizant, Infosys, they are literally basically, I haven't worked for one of these companies, but they're basically U.S. front office, remote back office. And so that's just, I see a lot more industries potentially going that route where, and now, they're going just completely remote around the board, just because you can talk to more people, online and stuff like that. So it will be interesting to see. It's definitely a fun time to be alive for sure. There's a lot of mobility for young people.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of mobility for you to come into like an established industry and do things slightly differently and see success. I think, again, you're a prime example of that. I keep on coming back to, I talk to my partner about this all the time. 255-star reviews is asinine. That is crazy. I assume some of that is just the adoption of technology, but you have like a great follow-up as well. Like I remember the moment the deal was closed, it's like you're on top of the reviews and stuff like that. And that's completely remote, and that's completely automated, just asking for reviews and stuff like that. So better opportunity for adoption of social proof, better opportunity to get leads. I mean, if you're coming into an industry and you can kind of, technology, you're adaptive. I really do think there's a massive amount of upwards mobility if you're willing to learn the tools and take the time to do that. So
absolutely. Completely agree.
Cool. Well, anyways, like I said, it's a pleasure having you on. I'm sure we'll stay in contact down the line. So best of luck. I know you probably have a couple clients to get back to throughout this call, so I'll let you get back to that. But I appreciate you coming on, and hope to see you and stay in contact into the coming years.
We'll see you when I'm back in Madison, which will be not too long. So we'll see you soon. You can't get rid of me yet.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, man. Pleasure having you on, and best of luck moving forward. So
sounds good.
I'll see you. Bye-bye.
See ya.